Hello everybody, again it's Mark, K3MHW. I finally finished my project of burying the coax cable from my house to the pole barn behind me. You can see this big box back here. That's the entry box, and everything comes down off the tower, which is right in front of me here, goes down through 3-inch conduit and runs into that box over there, whoop, over there. And I'm going to show you how we buried this, show you some pictures of work in the excavator, and then I'm going to open the boxes and show you what's inside and explain it. So I finally got the project done. Everything's working perfect, and I hope you enjoy this video. A lot of you have asked for part 2 when I finished it. 73s, and I'll see you on the other video. So here I am under the tower, and there's my antennas. We come down the tower, and all the coax is here, and that loop is so if I tilt the tower, there's enough space for the coax. You can see the grounding. I use Times microwave grounding braids, and all the coax is grounded to all the ground rods that are around the tower in a circular fashion. And then the ground goes from here all the way over to this box here, which is the main entrance box. I will show you a complete video on the inside of that box and the inside of the house box. Now you notice the conduit that comes down off the side. That's where I buried the new coax and ran it in. And it goes underground here. This was all dug up. It was quite a mess. Goes straight across to where you see the straw. The straw over here is where I had hand dug, because there were so many pieces of conduit underneath. I had to hand dig the first part of it. The total length of the dig is about 160 feet. And then it runs up to the box up on the house, and I'll show you the inside of that box in a little while. So I rototilled after I backfilled the holes and did some compaction. I rototilled it, leveled it, throw some seed down, and put some straw over it. And hopefully everything grows. Now you have to understand, when I was digging this trench, it was a mess. It would be sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and then all of a sudden it would open up and pour rain. So it took me months to get this done. You may remember I had a knee replacement back in January, and it took me a while to get better and well enough to do all this, but I finally got the entire dig done. We had the excavator over here. I'll show you pictures of that and how we did the hole. It went down 30 inches all the way across, and it's approximately 155 feet of coax, but it's a 160-foot trench. I'll explain that later. But please, the video of the excavator is a little jumpy, and I used the security camera up here on the tower, and it was a little jerky. I've got to replace that camera, so I apologize for the jerkiness, but you'll get the idea. It was a lot of work, but it worked out really well. I'm extremely happy with the outcome. I'll see you at the tail end of the video. This is a reiteration, really quick, of what we dug by hand to get everything to the house. Took us a whole day, but everything worked out well. And now we go from that. There's the wires going up into the house before we backfilled it. Now we go from that to the preparation for the excavator. The excavator arrived and he got into position. I had already used my small tractor to pull all the driveway stone back out of the way. I pulled it to one side, and then he was going to pile up the dirt right in that spot. Now the excavator's in position, and since Rich, who owns the excavator, and he loans it to me very often, he got in the cab and did the first dig. He had to dig close to the pole barn. I had one piece of conduit under there that fed power to the little pole barn to the right of the picture. He got in there with the bucket. I didn't have to use a shovel. It was wonderful. He just dug everything out with a 12-inch bucket, went right under the conduit, cleaned it out perfect. I didn't have to touch it. But he's just working very, very carefully around that piece of conduit. And then when he was done with that, we backed up a little bit. And what you don't see in the video is behind the excavator, and it's coming up in this picture. He had already dug the hole on or the trench on the other side of the excavator. Here he is trying to clean up the trench, which is 30 inches deep. Did a great job. Took about 35 minutes to dig that 65-foot hole. Worked out great, piled up the dirt. Looked like a mess when we were done with it, but everything worked out perfect. I would say that the 30-inch depth with him in the excavator at this point was within a half-inch of being perfect. Cleaned everything out, found some dead roots, but it worked out. Now Rich is touching up the hole here. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. Got all the rest of the dirt out. And at that point, Rich jumps in the hole and helps me run the hard line. You can see right there he's pulling the 7/8 inch hard line through, putting it under the conduit, and I'm feeding it to him from behind the excavator. And then additionally, he went back and got the other 4 cable feeds, 2 Ethernet LMR 600 and rotor control, and fed those. And here's a quick walkthrough of the trench as we dug it with the cables in it. Everything's down there, everything's solid, it's on sand. Not too many stones down there. Worked out very well. I'll walk around the front of the excavator here, show you the cables in the hole. They run around the corner under that one piece of conduit feed, and we stretched them out on the other side of the hole ready to feed into the box. Now Rich had to leave, so I hopped in the excavator and started backfilling the hole. It was really easy to get the lump sum of dirt back in there. I didn't want to do the fine tuning with it, but I used the excavator as carefully as I could and leveled out to the original surface. I also took the bucket and did a lot of compaction. I wanted to make sure that when it rained, it didn't just turn into a sinkhole. I compacted it after I had at least 12 to 15 inches of dirt in it, because obviously I didn't want to crush the cables underneath, but it worked out very, very well. I moved the excavator up, filled the front end of the hole, and I filled it near the pole barn there. I did the rough on it before breaking out the small tractor, which you'll see in a few minutes. But it was easier for me to use the excavator. When the excavator was used to put all the dirt back in the hole and compact it, I was then able to walk it off the hole, move it out to the side, and then I could get the small tractor and do all the fine work. Worked out very well. You'll see the pictures coming up here in a second, how nice it ended up. Now here I moved up the excavator, got closer to the pole barn, started pulling the dirt in over the PVC that feeds the small pole barn. It was very easy to do. I had a good time on that excavator. I've used it many times before. Rich is a good friend for that. Loans me his equipment when he's not using it. I moved up a little bit more, and then once it was filled enough that I could drive the excavator off, I moved it completely off the trench, and I brought in the small guns, which is my little tractor. My little tractor with the bucket on the front of it. I was able to push the rest of the dirt in that I didn't want to use the excavator with the teeth on the bucket for. I worked on this thing about an hour, and I got it looking pretty good. It took a while, it took a little bit of work, but I put the driveway back together pretty well. The small tractor was also good for, it weighs about 1 ton as compared to the excavator, which is a lot more. And it was a lot easier running the wheels of the small tractor over the trench and doing some more compaction, which did work out for me because that driveway is very, very solid. I kept running the tractor, smoothing, moving dirt, smoothing, moving dirt. I couldn't get too close to the small pole barn, so I had to do the small pole barn area with a tamper, 50-pound tamper, and that worked out pretty well also. Once I had the grade where I wanted it, I used the small tractor to pull the piles of stone back over the area. And you can see it's starting to look pretty good. This is where I quit for the night. I came back in the morning with the excavator, and I'll show you the excavator pulling the piles of stone in the bottom of the picture back over the dirt. That was rock solid. We could drive the cars over it and it wouldn't budge an inch. But it was nice using the excavator to put the stone back. That was a lot easier doing it that way than using the small tractor. Later on that day, Rich came and picked up the excavator for a job he had to do. So let me show you rather quickly a review picture. This is a picture after I was done with the excavator. The following picture is one that was done after I used the small tractor. And then once I pulled the stone back, there's the view. And actually, it looks like we were never there, except for a couple of spots, as you can see in the middle of the video, where I have to get a little bit more stone and kind of top it off at that point. And there's a picture from the driveway with the straw on it again, and everything looks nice and clean. So now I decided to run a test, and my test was I took my rig expert, hooked up into the house on the cable that goes in the transmitter, and I tested 2 and 70 centimeters to see what the SWR was. And after the scan, you'll see for yourself, at 2 meters at that frequency, it was 1.09 to 1, and 70 centimeters was 1 to 1 at 439. I think it worked out very, very well. This is a picture of the inside of the new desk and shelves. It's not complete yet, and I must tell you, I didn't notice the cat was there when I took the picture, but I have LED lighting and everything, but I have an FT1000 that has to go in one of those holes. But I got the computer in, everything working perfectly. And the other thing is, from where I sit at the desk, for the first time, I can look out and see the tower. When I turn the antenna, I can watch it, and it's quite a thrill. I can see the whole setup as I'm working, any DX or any locals or any repeaters. So now let me give you a little tour. This is the box that enters into the house where the equipment is. It's a 12 by 12 VEVOR, V-E-V-O-R box. This is what it looks like inside. It's a little tight, but I'm good with it. Everything worked out. I probably should have bought a bigger one. This is the CellFlex hardline, 7/8 inch, where it enters. This is the LMR 600 for all my HF work that enters and goes into Alpha Delta surge protectors. Both of them are right there. I always make sure I have protection from lightning or surges, anything but a direct hit. These are the LMR 400 flexible coax that goes inside to the radio switch, to the antenna switch. These are my surge protectors for the RJ45 stuff, the direct bury Ethernet. One is the rotor controller. These are the grounds, one coming from the house, 3 AWG, and one going down to the ground rod. Over here is a homemade surge protector using moves for the antenna rotor wire. Down there is what they call electrical putty. I think it's called duct seal, and that's what I use to keep the moisture and bugs out from coming up to the ground. Everything then feeds into this box. So all the underground cable comes in through that right conduit with the slight 45 bend in it. That's the inside of the box, and I made it as neat as I could. I'm not great at that, but it looks okay. And then there's the CellFlex hardline where it comes in. The hardline then goes into a Comet duplexer, and the two little arrows on the left are 2 and 70 centimeter feed respectively. Now we come to, that's my 6 meter feed from the tower into the surge protectors, the Alpha Deltas. That's my 40 meter dipole, soon to become a Buckmaster all band dipole. And the next coax feed from the tower is the HF, the tri-bander 10, 15, and 20 meter. And the last surge protector is my FM radio antenna and TV antenna coming down from the tower. I then added 2 more surges, one for the other end of the direct bury Ethernet, one for the antenna switch and one for the Ethernet. Over here, I have another feed. That's my camera, my security camera on the tower. That's also an RJ45 surge protector. It's gas filled. And there is the other end protecting my rotor wire using moves. Up here is a 3-inch entrance into the antenna switch. The 2 little arrows are the ground lines. That's the antenna switch on the wall. It's an Ameritron RCS 10. It's an 8-position switch. And there's a picture of the underside of it, all controlled by one of the remote direct bury Ethernet cables. And that connector is the LMR 600 feeding the HF feeds from the house up through the other antennas on the tower. That's a ground. Ameritron recommends that position number 1 is a shorted coax, which helps you during any surges that may occur. That's my direct bury Ethernet. That runs the remote switch. And down on the bottom, you can barely see it, but there's my grounding, my 3AWG. That grounds to all the rods, including the ones around the tower. So there you have it. As you can see behind me, it's raining again. I can't get away from the rain. Don't know what that is, but I'm jinxed with rain this year. I guess it's better than being dry. But thanks for watching. I appreciate it. This is Ham Radio Adventures number 9, part 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry I'm not a better videographer, but I think you get the idea of all the work we did. Everything is working perfect in the house. I'm a very happy camper. 73s, and we'll see you on the next video.